Valhalla has finally reopened at Blackpool Pleasure Beach for technical rehearsals. Join me in this video as I share my initial thoughts to this newly refurbished water ride at the park. As you all know, Valhalla closed over 3 seasons ago for a huge refurbishment and a reimagining of the ride system and all of the different scenes included in the actual ride. And just a few days ago, it reopened for technical rehearsals to the general guests at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. And it was about a day ago at the time recording that I went on Valhalla and experienced it for myself. So in this video, I'm going to give my full thoughts from the exterior of the ride and also inside the ride and discuss the positives and negatives during the technical rehearsal period. But before I start all of that, I just want to discuss and share my thoughts on what technical rehearsals really means for Valhalla. So what technical rehearsals really means is when a dark ride will open for a period of time and essentially it will be open for the general public to ride. However, it won't be fully operational. What I mean by that is loads of the effects and different scenes and lighting and sound may not be fully operational during this time, and there's probably a lot of touching up to do and a lot of work to actually do on the inside. However, this gives the park a good sense of what's working, what's not, and also guests' general thoughts to the ride. And essentially this period will last for however long the park really wants it to, and then it will fully reopen to the public, and that's when this ride we can give our full review. So at this moment in time, it's in technical rehearsals. No one in the world can give their full dedicated review to Valhalla at this time because we're only really getting a general idea on what it's going to be like, and we can give our full review when it actually opens to the public. So right now it's sort of like a preview for Valhalla, so don't go in if you're going to Pleasure Beach and you may be a bit disappointed by Valhalla. Don't worry, because this is not the final product that we're getting. There's still loads of work to happen on the inside, and I think we're going to see this throughout the review. It's not the final product, it's not fully polished yet. This is just really a little preview of what we can expect later down the line from Valhalla. But I also just want to add as well, technical rehearsals may mean that it's not open on your visit. It can operate for 20 minutes or it can operate for 4 hours. You never know. Really, don't expect it to be open, and you are lucky if it does open. Usually, for the past few days, it's opened at around 2 o'clock. So if you are going to Pleasure Beach and you do want to get a ride on Valhalla, then I recommend going to the plaza area at around midday to ensure that as soon as it opens, you get on, because it can literally open for 20 minutes. And then close for the rest of the day. So really, you are lucky if you do get on it. It's a technical rehearsal period. With that in mind, this isn't going to be my final thoughts on Valhalla. My final thoughts on Valhalla will be when it fully opens and comes out of the technical rehearsal period. So this review isn't going to be that in detail. I'm going to give my summary and my thoughts of Valhalla and what they need to improve on. However, I'm not going to be going through the ride scene by scene and telling you what they can improve on scene by scene, what's good and stuff like that. It's going to be an overall general look at Valhalla, because I really don't think it's fair to give it a full grade by each scene when it's not fully finished yet. Pleasure Beach have said this is technical rehearsals. They're not saying it's fully finished yet, and my full review will come later down the line when it fully opens. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the aspects of Valhalla. Starting off with the new soundtracks that's been produced for the ride itself. And yeah, I don't think it particularly fits Valhalla as good as the old soundtrack used to. The old soundtrack was actually from the Hot Ice show. However, it did fit the ride really well. It had a very catchy tune to it. This new one, it still fits the ride. However, it just doesn't have something that the old soundtrack did. It's hard to explain. However, I just don't think it fits the ride as well as the old soundtrack did. However, a positive, it actually has some announcements around the ride, sort of like a Viking taking you on a tour around Valhalla. However, the volume of this audio was so low, it was basically non-existent towards the middle section and the end section of the ride. Towards the start, you could hear it. However, it sort of just faded out throughout the ride, sort of faded out by the screams of riders and overall the gushing of water through the trough, which is a bit of a shame. However, it's still technical rehearsals. I imagine this is quite an easy fix, just to turn up the volume. However, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but hopefully they can, and when they do, it's going to be a much more immersive experience. Having that storytelling around the ride is going to make Valhalla so much better. Some other parts of the ride as well. You've got a new scene on the entrance of the ride where you head in. You've got like sort of a Viking just there, and then you turn and you head up the first lift hill. And I do want to talk about this because the theming is really good. A lot of it is from the original Valhalla, However, it has been enhanced by lighting and stuff like that. For example, the dogs, they look really good. Not as much movement as they previously did have. You've got the huge dog at the top, which sort of licks riders as well, which is quite funny. Unfortunately, the real fire has been removed from the first lift hill of the ride. It's now fake fire, which does look realistic. However, you can't beat real fire and the effect it gives to riders. Of course, as we all know, the first drop of the ride has been turned around. It's no longer backwards, which is a bit, you know, in between. I'm a neutral towards this because it doesn't particularly take away from the ride experience. It's just not as thrilling as it maybe once was when you used to go down it backwards. However, it still has the turntable that turns you around forward, and then of course you head down the drop in a forwards position rather than backwards. But yeah, before, in the actual turntable section, that of course used to be open. You used to get a nice view towards Tango Ice Blast and also even towards the sea and Sandcastle Water Park. That's all now been blocked in. But what really is a shame is that there's no theming, nothing really in this part of the ride. I couldn't hear the audio, as I said earlier. It's sort of just blackness, really, just darkness. And I don't mind darkness when going down the drop of the ride. It's quite thrilling not seeing what you're going down. But in this section, when you're sort of just waiting for the turntable to turn you around, could do with some theming. Potentially projection mapping would be quite good in this scene. Something, even just smoke and mist for now would be better. But it is literally just blankness right here. So yeah, hopefully in the future they can add a few more effects in that part of the ride, because I really just feel like it's in desperate need of some. Yeah, you head through the next few scenes. I remember there being quite a big Viking boat, which is quite a good theming prop. And of course, the second drop of the ride isn't too far from this point. Of course, you used to have the cold room towards this section of the ride. That's been totally removed. It used to get into the minuses degrees in there. Unfortunately, that has been removed, which is a bit of a shame. I think that was quite a standout part of the ride, because you used to go from like a normal average temperature into a freezing cold room, which was really cool experience for riders, and that was sort of a standout part of the ride for me. Unfortunately, that has been removed. You head to the second drop of the ride, where you used to go down, and then you actually greeted by the water vortex. Unfortunately, that wasn't on in my visit. Whether that was off or whether it's been totally removed permanently from the ride, I'm not too sure. However, as I said earlier, it's really been difficult recording this review because I can't exactly say this is how I feel about Valhalla, because it could totally change later down the line. When of course it does fully open after technical rehearsals, a lot is going to be changed. This is not the final point of Valhalla. It's not polished. It's nowhere near complete, I don't think. So there's a lot still to happen down the line. However, yeah, you head down the second drop of the ride. There's a good few effects in this part. You've got like the waterfalls that come down as well, which you look like you're going to go through, but you don't. And they just stop right before you head through. And then of course you had the last drop of the ride, and for me this is where the ride really lacked. After the final drop of the ride, there used to be so many fire effects. You had the big sort of blasts at the end, you had like the strip of fire to the left of you. Unfortunately, there was barely any fire on my visit. I think there was a few little flame effects at the end, which were quite good, to be fair. Let's be honest, these were quite good effects. However, a lot of it had been stripped back. They said there's still more fire to come. They said that there's going to be loads of fire. So hopefully this is just a thing that will happen with time and with investment and with constant work. Valhalla isn't finished, as I keep saying through this review. So yeah, there's still time to get some more fire in this scene. Overall though, the theming of Valhalla is really good. I know I've said there's been a lot of dark sections. However, there's been a lot of heavily themed sections, and I haven't gone through it in detail because this is my initial thoughts from the technical rehearsals. My full review will come later down the line once it's come out of technical rehearsals. But then of course you're in this final scene. It's quite open in here actually. Good use of theming once again. Quite a few bits have remained from the original ride. And then of course you head out back into the station. And here again, something has been removed. You used to have those blasts coming out from the rocks. Unfortunately, the cannon blasts at the end haven't been removed. When you actually used to go outside, and just before the station you used to get blasts and a little sprinkle of water would come on you. That's all been removed, and the rock theming has also been removed, so you can just see the hydraulics of the ride, which isn't a bad thing. If it's going to make it more reliable, then sure, but it was just a little thing that I noticed. And yeah, overall that's pretty much Valhalla. I don't want to talk about it in detail. This isn't my final review. That will come later down the line, as I keep saying. But yeah, lack of fire. The soundtrack was really low. However, the theming is really good. Some of it is a little bit out of place. I remember there being a sparkly angel somewhere or some sort of sparkly Viking. Not too sure that fits exactly in the ride. However, overall, the theming's really good. I really did like the dogs. I think that was sort of a standout scene for me, actually. But one thing I didn't talk about is I think it's after the final drop, you've got a log that rolls over the top of you, and also two giant logs which come crashing down and create a really good water effect. Actually, scrap the dog. That was the best scene for me, personally. Really good use of effects there. You had a log rolling over the top of you and these two great big sort of wooden log props that came crashing down, and it did actually look like they were going to hit the boat, but of course they don't. They hit the side sort of thing, and then the water comes gushing up, which is a really cool effect. That was all in there from the original ride. However, it's nice to see that the kit kept that, and it does look like a really good effect. That's probably my favourite scene of this ride. It's not finished. We can tell Valhalla isn't finished. And the park haven't said that it is finished and this is the final product. It's in technical rehearsals. And, you know, in a few months' time or however long it takes to get out of this period, that will be when the full review comes out. Because right now, this is sort of an initial thoughts review video. Because I haven't gone in it in detail. Because I want to do that when the ride's fully polished and give it a full review and what it really deserves when all of the effects are working. Because right now, it's a bit of a mixed match. You could go on one day and a lot of the effects are working. You could go on another day when rarely any of the effects are working. There's no fire. So it really depends on what day you go. Each different day, each week you go, it's going to be a different experience for everyone. And with all the reviews coming out at the minute, it has been that. It's been really a mixed bag with Valhalla. However, I love the ride. I'm always going to love it, whatever it goes through. It is a really good water ride. It's still by far the best water ride and even the best dark ride in the UK. They've got some good effects in there. More fire is needed. Audio needs to be turned up, but apart from that, it's an overall really good ride. A few dark sections could do with a bit of brightening up. But what I do feel like the ride really needs is potentially some projection mapping. I feel like that really slipped the net. I feel like the park could have really used some projection mapping to enhance the experience, because projection mapping is such a strong thing to use. We've seen it in Curse at the Manor, and it really does a fantastic job at enhancing the experience. So hopefully there is some projectors that just haven't been turned on. That maybe, you know, they're up on the ceiling and they haven't just been turned on yet. So hopefully that's a thing that the park looked to do. But overall, Valhalla's open at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. It's open for technical rehearsals. It's not going to be open every day of the week. So if you go in, don't expect it to be open, and you'll be lucky if it does. For the past few days, it's opened at around 2, as I said earlier. So I recommend getting there for midday. And just really sticking around that area. Maybe go on Ice Blast or Grand National, but just sticking around that front plaza area. And as soon as it opens, head straight in the queue, get in there. And of course, you may potentially get a ride on Valhalla. Of course, you get absolutely soaked. There's been not a lot of changes to the actual drops itself. Those have all remained the same. You get the same amount of wetness as you previously did. You get absolutely soaked. The boats fill with water. My socks and shoes were soaked. It's a good ride. Don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. It's not finished just yet. However, there's plenty more to go. It's in technical rehearsals, just like the Mummy over at Universal Studios. That was in technical rehearsals for a period of time. And now that's, I think it was a few months ago that came out of technical rehearsals. So I think the same's going to apply to Valhalla. They're just getting the things right. They're getting the ropes of things. It's reopened after over 3 seasons. And this isn't my final review. I found it really hard to do this review today because I'm not too sure what to sort of say about it, because it isn't my final thoughts. It's sort of just my initial reaction. So I found it really hard to do this review today. Later down the line, there'll be a full in-detail review that will last probably around 20 minutes of me just discussing each scene in particular, of course, when it comes out of this technical rehearsal period. But there we go. Valhalla now open at Blackpool Pleasure Beach for technical rehearsals. Check it out. Let me know all of your thoughts down in the comment section down below. If you've experienced it, what did you think? What improvements would you like to be seen made? What do you think to the new soundtrack as well? That's a big one for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. But with all that said, Valhalla now open at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Go and check it out. With all that said, if you did enjoy the video, do consider subscribing. Plenty more videos on the way. We've already got 2 vlogs from Blackpool Pleasure Beach this season out on the channel, so do go and check those out if you haven't already. With all that said, I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.